Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon, and I'm your host. Now, before we get started, please follow me on Twitter at @SensTalk_. I greatly appreciate the support there. Now, before we get into Sens Weekly Update Part Number 2, I have a little bit of an update on the merchandise I promised you guys within the last couple of months. So, a couple of months ago, I announced for the first time that Sens Talk would be putting out merchandise for the first time ever in our history. And we have the first real update about what will be out first. So it's a shotgun tool. It's what you use to open a beer, the shoddy, the actual beer itself. It's something that a lot of teenagers do or young adults. But everyone, of course, is welcome to participate in shotgunning a brew. So essentially, you use the tool to open up a hole in the can so you can take it down in like one big gulp. So as you can see on the video here, we're actually showing the tool itself. We're still in prototype, so this design right here, as you can see on the screen, will be edited more to make sure it's the perfect quality, to make sure it's a good actual surface itself, make sure we're getting the best quality for you guys. So we're going to make sure it's great quality. So stay tuned within the next week or so for actual designs so you can see what you're buying. And speaking of buying, within the next week or so, we'll have prices and everything. So the next week or so, I'll have all the details you need to know about the shotgun tools, as you can see on the screen right here. And we've gotten great feedback so far about interest in even purchasing the shotgun tool, so that's obviously exciting to hear. And stay tuned in the future. We're going to have masks potentially on sale, mugs, t-shirts, etc. So lots coming very soon, but first up is the shotgun tool, so stay tuned. Now let's get into the Sens Weekly Update Part Number 2. It's starting with the Senators' star prospect, Tim Stützle. Here's an update from a few days ago from Sean Simpson of TSN 1200. He said that he's almost at 100% and will report to Germany's World Junior Training Camp for the World Junior Championship on the 6th in Fusen. As it stands now, he will come to Ottawa after the tournament, although he hasn't been released by Mannheim Eagles, the team he plays for in the DEL. That seems nothing more than a formality, so essentially Sean Simpson is saying that after the World Juniors, where hopefully Stützle will do very well for Team Germany, they're expected to have a strong team, he will come to Ottawa and participate in training camp, and then, of course, into the regular season with the Senators. And, of course, the actual extension, or not extension, pardon me, the actual contract with Tim Stützle should not be an issue whatsoever. It's more of when, not how, Tim Stützle will be released from Anaheim to be signed by the Senators for his first ever NHL contract. So stay tuned probably within the month to see a contract offer to Stützle, and obviously accepted by Tim Stützle himself. Now, speaking of the prospect, Tim Stützle, and him going to Team Germany, let's give a little bit of an update on what Sens prospects are going to the World Junior Championships, which are less than a month away. Firstly, for Team USA, it's Jake Sanderson, the 5th overall selection from the last draft for Ottawa, and it's Tyler Kleven, the 2nd round pick that a lot of people had an issue with drafting in the 2nd round, who traded a couple picks up to move up to select him. A lot of people saw it as a reach, but I've been watching UND, which is University of North Dakota, play, and they've been very, very good, and Tyler Kleven has been very impressive to say the least. He's not, like an elite, crazy offensively talented defenseman, but he's a steady, hard-hitting defenseman who really plays well, has a good skate stride. I could definitely see him as an NHL prospect. I think a lot of people wrote this kid off way too early, and he has some offense to give to it. A nice goal the other day as well, a nice little toe drag goal. So Tyler Kleven actually has some potential, and I think people should understand that the Senators, they don't draft just the draft, and they saw something in the kid, and a lot of Sens fans on Twitter the last few days have seen what the Sens scouting has seen with Tyler Kleven. It's been really impressive, to say the least. And then, of course, Jake Sanderson had a good time with UND as well, but now he's with Kleven with Team USA. Now, of course, with Germany, Tim Stützle is going to be with Team Germany. Finland, Roby Järventie will be with Team Finland. That's our other 2nd round selection from this draft. And then really Greg, he was invited to Team Canada's training camp, never even participated in the camp. He contracted COVID-19, unfortunately, and today was deemed unfit to play. So Ridley Gregg will not participate in the 2020 World Junior Championships. Now, speaking of World Junior Championships, Igor Sokolov, who played for Team Russia last year in the World Junior Championships, signed a 3-year entry-level deal with the Ottawa Senators a couple weeks ago. Now, the native of Yekaterinburg, Russia, I hope I didn't butcher that, Sokolov, at the age of 20, spent the entire 2019-20 campaign, his 3rd major junior season, skating for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League's Cape Breton Eagles, and led the team in scoring with 92 points, 46 of those were goals, while recording 42 penalty minutes over 52 regular season games. He also appeared in each of Russia's 7 contests at the 2020 IIHF World Junior Championship, so this year's would be 2021 actually, in the Czech Republic, where he tallied 4 points, 3 of those were goals, and 16 penalty minutes in helping Russia secure a silver medal at the 2020 World Junior Championship. So my error. This year will be the 2021 World Junior Championship. That stuff always confuses me, the dates of that stuff, but 2021 this year, and then 2020, Igor Sokolov had a great time, great job doing so. In the QMJHL, the kid lit it up, 46 goals, and then of course, with Team Russia, 7 games, getting 3 goals. That's definitely not a easy feat to do. So, Igor Sokolov, firstly, he was ecstatic to be drafted by Ottawa. If you haven't already, you got to watch the video of his reaction to getting drafted. The kid seems like a great character guy. I've watched and listened to interviews with him, like on the Locked On Sounders podcast, great friends of the show, and other podcasts. He seems like a genuine great guy. So excited and thrilled to have Igor Sokolov join the Sounders organization for the next 3 years, and I'm excited to see what he can do next year in Belleville whenever that season begins. Now, while we're on the topic of prospects, let's get to the prospect spotlight of the week. And this week, it is Shane Pinto from the University of North Dakota. And University of North Dakota is really off to a hot start in the NCHC pod, which is essentially like a bubble for a college conference, like one of these college hockey conferences. They have played 3 games. They're in their 4th game right now. They're 3-0 so far. They've been very, very good. And Shane Pinto, while UND has been incredible, Shane Pinto has impressed himself individually. In 3 games, he has 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points total. And this week, Shane Pinto went 47 for 17 on faceoffs, which is .734 percentage in the faceoff circle, which that's Patrice Bergeron numbers. And I'm not comparing Shane Pinto to Patrice Bergeron, but Shane Pinto has really, really impressed early on in this early season for UND. And winning 47 of 17 faceoffs is incredible at any level. What's most impressive from Shane Pinto is against Denver, one of the top programs in college hockey, he went 18-0 on the faceoff circle. That is unreal. Now this season so far as well, this week, he's +3 and put up 12 shots on goal. Now currently, UND is playing against the Denver Pioneers in their 2nd game against Denver in the first 4 games of their season. Denver is currently up 2-1 in the game, but the lone goal from UND came off an assist from Shane Pinto. So he has 6 points so far in about 3 2/3 games played. That game is going into the 3rd period right now, I believe. But Shane Pinto did get an assist there. So in 3 games and 2/3 of those games, 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points total. It's incredible, and I'm sure Shane Pinto is doing just unreal numbers right now in the face-off circle. So Shane Pinto's prospect spotlight of the week. He has been unreal. Now, one more thing to talk about before we get into the Eugene Melnyk article or interview from Bruce Garriock. As you can see from the thumbnail of this video, we're obviously going to discuss it. Now, this week saw the Senators celebrate the 30th anniversary of the day the city of Ottawa was granted an NHL expansion franchise. The Senators Twitter account put out a nice little tribute video. That was on December 6th, the 30th year anniversary. It's nice and always important to remember how, a nice boring government town like here in Ottawa, a government city like we have here in Ottawa, has an NHL franchise. It's really incredible. We can't take that for granted. It's awesome to have a team here in Ottawa. Now, Melnyk was interviewed from Bruce Garriock. Here are my key takeaways. I took out a couple of quotes because my main point here is time to prove it, Melnyk. It's time to prove it. You've ripped the team apart, and you're very proud of it, but you've ripped the team apart. Now it's time to put pen to paper. Sign Brady Tkachuk. You've already done that with Shabbat. You've already done that with White, but sign Brady Tkachuk. Build the trust again with the fan base. That's what needs to be done. Build the amends with the fan base. Now, here's a quote from Eugene Melnyk. We'll be a team that's active at the trade deadline and not as sellers, but as buyers, just like we used to be. If you look at my track record on spending on players, we were always up there. We were never at the top, but we were always right there or around the center. Now we're going to stay somewhere in the center, depending on where it's at. Our budgets are always around $70 million, which is in the center. And I'll give credit to Eugene Melnyk. $70 million is a lot of money, and most importantly, we are a Canadian franchise, so do the math. That's in American dollars, $70 million. So do the math. That's a lot of money. That being said, I'm going to bring it to the next point here before I make my point. From Bruce Garriock, Melnyk is committed to keeping this group together, which is why the Senators will eventually sit with Tkachuk to try to get an extension in place for him and add other pieces if needed. That's the most important part about this. The Senators need to sign Brady Tkachuk, and they need to get to the table now. If they can, do it now. You can't afford to get him swept away in an RFA, offer sheet potentially, or even him go down the Mark Stone route where he's out in a couple of years. Lock this kid up, lock him up long term. You will draw some eyes from Sens fans specifically, but around the league as well. You put the league on notice because Chabot was huge. That was the first huge turning around point to regain any sort of trust with the Senators organization and the fan base. But Brady Tkachuk is another animal. It's a different catalyst. Brady Tkachuk is the catalyst around the fact that the Senators have a broken amend with their fan base, and they've done it with Chabot, they've done it with Colin White, and it's time to do it with Brady Tkachuk. Sign him up long term. Sens fans will definitely take notice of that. I also noticed in the article Eugene Melnick was speaking about finances and this and that. I think the cheapest way, and Trevor Shackles, friend of the show, brought this up on Twitter, the cheapest way to upgrade your franchise is through scouting and adding executives and people to the hockey management. I really hope Melnick begins to start doing that more. That's why teams like Toronto are not Toronto, that's a terrible example, but teams such as like the Blues, for example, teams like Vegas with a lot of scouts and like analytics and stuff like that. You need to have a big front office and hockey management to have a successful team. It's the cheapest way to do it, and I hope Melnick understands that, because the more scouts, more people in management you have more opinions, you have more eyes on the game. That usually equals a better product. So, it's sort of like marketing. The cheapest way to market is through social media. For Melnick here, well, I'd assume. So the cheapest way for Melnick here, in my opinion, to really rebuild this team, rebuild that front office, get another assistant another assistant general manager like you said you would. Get a CEO. They did sign a few key executives today, so I give them credit. It looks like they're going to start doing what I'm saying, but I really hope this trend continues. But before we get to the 3 key executives and why this is so important for the Senators moving forward, a little bit of an update on the National Hockey League season. So, first from Darren Dreger this morning, nothing's finalized. However, focus and discussions related to National Hockey League training camps, this pertains to the Ottawa Senators, has been on 10-day camps with no exhibition games, which means no preseason games. In the summer, return to play non-playoff teams were hoping for a 7-day head start to 2020-2021 training camps. 7 days, quote-unquote, is unlikely at this point, according to TSN analyst and insider Darren Dreger, which affects the Senators drastically. No preseason games, no extended training camp. Get ready for some sloppy Senators hockey when they return within the next month, because they would have been out for almost a year, or about 8 to 9 months. I don't know what the NHL is doing here. I think this is childish. I think regardless, the NHL had months to get this under control, to get this wrapped up, and to figure out a plan. Now they're leaving it to December 8th to really get some final details going, and you're kind of screwing over 7 teams. How do you expect a fair, competitive season when some teams haven't played for 9 months and you're giving them an even playing ground? You need to give these teams a little bit of extra time to shake off the rust, especially without exhibition games. So I'm sure like teams like Ottawa are going to raise that to the National Hockey League at the board meeting whenever that is this week. And I'm sure the NHL will grant some extended time for teams like Ottawa to get more ice time before other teams, because let's face it, they haven't played hockey since March 11th against the Kings. It's time they need more ice time. It's very simple. Now, from Greg Wyshynski, ESPN NHL Insider, from an NHL team executive this morning, the National Hockey League season is starting January 13th, confirmed last night. We are going to be playing 56 games. So the NHL season is going to look like this. It's going to be a start of January 13th, and it's going to run 56 games. I like it, especially for Ottawa. You're going to have at least 10 or 11 games against the Leafs and Habs. Lots of great content coming your way, ladies and gentlemen. Now, final thing from Bruce Garriock, the NHL and NHLPA have discussed expanded rosters. Wouldn't be a surprise if each team was allowed to carry 26 players, an extra forward, defenseman, and goalie, of course. It's an issue that has to be resolved. That's from Bruce Garriock. Now, last bit of news. Sens announced 3 signings of key executives. Tom Hoof is the club's new vice president of marketing. Jeff Morander will serve as an executive vice president, ticket sales and service. And Greg Olson has been named the CFO, the chief financial officer. Anthony LeBlanc, president of business operations, signed to a long-term contract extension as well. So what we're seeing here is stability within the Sanders organization. Let's hope that they last here for a long time. We've seen a lot of executives recently get chased out of the building within the year. Let's hope they stay long term. I don't see why they wouldn't. Ever since Anthony LeBlanc joined the team, things have calmed down a bit, I'd say. And like I said about the point before about Melnick spending the cheapest way to improve your team, hockey management, of course, but of course also front office. It's important. You got to get executives to help on the business side of things and re-amend those relationships with the businesses around the city of Ottawa. There's been a really big disconnect the last few years between the businesses of Ottawa and the Senators organization, and hopefully these guys and the rest of the team there in Ottawa with the Senators organization can re-amend those broken bridges. Now, the last bit of news, like I mentioned before, University of North Dakota is off to a hot start at 3-0. Sens prospects have been very, very good. A guy like Tyler Cleveland has been unreal. We already spoke about that. The Senators have some really nice prospects at UND. Now, as well, speaking of UND, Sens prospect Jacob Bernard Docker took a knee last week during a game for UND to protest racial injustice. I give my hats off to JBD for standing up for what he believes in. Definitely, it's not an easy decision to make, but I think as Sens fans and as people, we should be proud of him for taking a stand for such an important issue. Now, the last bit of news, Anders Nilsson still dealing with concussion symptoms, according to goalie coach Pierre Guru. I don't know when he will return to the Sens. It's not looking good. And our best wishes, of course, with Anders Nilsson. Hopefully a speedy recovery and you can get on the ice sooner rather than later. So that is it for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So remember the Sens shotgun tools, the STST, the Sens Shoddy tools. Those ones should be out very, very soon. So stay tuned for updates on that. But besides that, thank you all for watching. I appreciate the support. So please follow us on Twitter at @SensTalk_. I greatly appreciate the support there. Like us on Facebook at SensTalk. SensTalkCentral.com is our website. And of course, click the big red button down there. Subscribe to us, like this video, share this video, wherever you cool stuff. And click the notification bell and turn it on so you get notified whenever we make a new video. So I'll see you in the next few days for another episode of Let's Talk. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon. Go Sens Go.